What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah. That's right.
Hope everyone had a happy Hari Raya weekend.
Was it a very lively weekend for you? Like were the streets bustling and everything?
Not really.
Not really. Yeah, I felt it was a bit quiet, if anything.
Yeah.
A lot of places I weren't packed or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, like nothing out of the ordinary. Like nothing made me feel like, hey, this weekend is like unlike other weekends. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And
but I
also,
guess
like,
maybe because people are celebrating and they're spending time with family rather than being out and all that. Maybe.
Yeah. And or maybe like I know some companies have long weekends, some companies have Monday off, or some businesses have Monday off. So this is 2 long weekends in a row now, if you are from said company.
Yeah. And next week is a long weekend also, right?
Yeah, I just found out this weekend.
Yeah, I totally forgot this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things about like doing your own thing, where I always lose track of public holidays. And yeah, I realized it this weekend, but yeah, that's going to be happening next week. But for this week, we're still in town.
Yes,
we're still chugging along.
Yeah, bit of a slower news week, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Does it feel?
What is going on? Even today, just like last week's episode, was you really had to dig deep, man. Really had to dig deep.
Yeah, and today we're digging even deeper, right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, before we jump to all that, like, what's the one plug that we always have to do?
To tell our dear listeners that if you're listening to this for the first few times or for a long ass time, if you do enjoy the podcast, and if you haven't yet told at least one other person about it, it'd be great if you could, because our listeners and community has grown organically, I think mainly through word of mouth. So if your mouths could carry on doing, giving more words, that would be great.
That's right. Nothing does better for this podcast than word of mouth. Word of mouth,
exactly. Yeah. Was there an alley-oop? Was there an alley-oop that you were setting up for yourself?
No, not really. Actually, it's just a figure of speech.
Because I mean, in some way, the first story is about people who hopefully have a lot of words in their mouth.
Okay. I see what you did there.
I thought you threw the alley-oop without even knowing now.
No lah, yeah, it's a it's much more very innocent statement, nothing more than that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yes.
But yes, the first topic we are diving into is the fact that after the submission window for nominated member of parliament positions ended last Wednesday at 4:30 p.m., it was revealed that only 30 names have been put up for consideration, which is the lowest number since 2001.
That's right.
Since 2001. Yeah. For example, the last time there was a round of nominations back in 2020, there was 61 nominations. And in 2016, there were 41. In 2018, there were 48. Yeah. Now it is only 30. So there's been,
Yeah, but for people who maybe don't know our political system or parliamentary system very well, like, what is an NMP, right? Versus the people who are elected into parliament, the ministers, the MPs that you see often giving speeches on TV. What does a nominated member of parliament do, and how does it differ?
So basically, an NMP is a member of the Singapore Parliament, but who is appointed by the president. They are not affiliated by any political party, and they do not represent any constituency at all. And as of now, there are 9 NMPs in parliament.
So in terms of nominations, when you say that there are 30 nominations or 30 people have been nominated, it means that they haven't actually been selected by the president yet, right?
Yes, correct. They haven't been selected. What will happen after this is that they will be they'll be interviewed by a select committee, and it's headed by the Speaker of the House, Tan Chuan Jin. So basically, a special select committee will interview and consider all eligible candidates and nominate up to 9 for the president to appoint as NMPs. So the chairperson is Tan Chuan Jin, but on the panel are also the Minister of Education Chan Chun Sing, Gan Kim Yong, Vivian Balakrishnan, Indrani Raja, of Maliki Osman, Gan Xiao Hang, and Leon Pereira. So mainly PAP MPs and one opposition.
But do NMPs, do they have any bite in terms of what they can, vote on and speak about and all that?
Actually, they can. They can participate in all debates. They can vote on all issues except amendments to the constitution. So like recently, like the definition of marriage and all, that one they couldn't. They can't vote on issues or motions relating to public funds and of removing the president from office.
Yeah. So basically, it's I guess you could say it's a slightly defanged elected MP lah, kind of, right?
Slightly defanged.
They got a little bit less say and everything, but I think it was first introduced by Goh Chok Tong in 1990, right? As a means to provide more diverse viewpoints in Parliament, which at that point in time was very dominated by one party, the PAP, right?
Yeah.
So that's that was the original objective of introducing NMPs in Parliament. Which I know there are criticisms of that, which we will get to. But when you saw this, like, why was this even something that was newsworthy to you?
Maybe because it's a slow news week, so even the journalists are like, "What the fuck are we going to write about?" So, but also because I think it does signal, or it could signal a few different things, lah. I know one theory pushed out by people online and some experts is that maybe it's because generally there's a feeling that there are more opposition voices in Parliament right now. Thanks to social media and all that. So the need for NMPs to look out for other things and provide an opposition voice is less lah.
And this kind of plays into, I think, the early days of the NMP program and everything. There were criticisms that this NMP system is basically, giving people a false sense of security that you wouldn't actually need to vote anyone else besides the PAP to power, right? I think the opposition was constantly saying that, criticizing it, saying that it's a convenient excuse to say, if you want diverse voices in Parliament, there's this NMP program. That means you can still vote in your PAP politicians. But if you want diverse voices, here are diverse voices in Parliament. So you don't have to vote for opposition and risk your future and all. So I think that was a lot of the initial criticisms of it. But, it's been, 2-3 decades almost with the system in place and all. Generally, what is your perception of this, the NMP system?
So okay, on paper, theoretically, like if you ask me, after reading through and understanding the history, I can see the need for it and I can see the benefit. And I actually think, that's an interesting idea because you also get representatives who are selected by, say, the arts community, the environmental community, and they at least have some representation in Parliament lah. Because I mean, a lot of people might have their opinions on policy, but to become a politician is your life lah, So I know there's one complaint that we often hear, even in our industry, that we don't have enough actual practitioners of media in the positions that make the decisions lah. So this is an opportunity to get them into Parliament. But then when I think about so who are some NMPs that I can think of just off the top of my head? Of course, there is Kelvin Cheng, ex-NMP. There is Mark Che, the ex-swimmer. And Walter Teixeira. Yeah.
Economist.
Economist. So those are the three who I know of either from reading their posts or see clips. But then I was thinking, who else? So for you, do you know? Can you recall any NMPs?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple that I also named in the news article. Let me just pull it up. Like Anthea Ong, who I definitely do remember, as well as is it Q Sam Hong? Is that his name?
Perhaps.
Yeah, Q. I could be butchering the Siu Kam Hong. Sorry, Siu Kam Hong. Q Sam Hong. Yeah,
That's like
Siu
calling
Kam
me
Hong.
Tarish Hilani.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do remember him speaking up on a lot of key issues, especially when it relates to like human rights and stuff like that as well. So I do think NMPs have made their presence felt in the past 20 to 30 years. And in some ways, because like what you said, they actually have to be nominated to represent the arts community or whatever community that they're representing, right? They everyone has to everyone within the community kind of has to come to a consensus about who to push or who to back for this particular role. Because I do remember a few years ago, receiving emails and messages from a couple of people that I know from the media community who were trying to be the media / arts NMP as well. And so they actually had to, get on calls and explain their stances about things and what they will be speaking about in parliament. And then they also got to, a little bit like how, in school, canvassing to join the school council and stuff like that used to be like, right? Almost like the pseudo popularity contest and all. But so the fact that there is that element of having to canvas from support within the community, I think it actually, it makes them a bit more legit as representatives of their community as well, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, from just now what you mentioned, all the names have to be vetted by the politicians and ultimately signed off by the president, him or herself, right?
Yeah.
So there is a very strict vetting process in place. So not just anyone can become an NMP. Do you think you could possibly be an NMP as well one day?
I think I could, but I don't know how good I will be at it.
Why?
Because I do think I care about stuff. I have opinions on stuff, and we've been in the media for quite a while. Been through a whole bunch of things, and there are a lot of issues that we have lobbied the powers that be at IMDA and all to change, and got nowhere with. So I think, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether I will be able to do much change within there lah.
So is your criticism of the system or of yourself or what?
I think myself, like just the nature of the role, especially because right now, we have our podcast. We do have a community. We do have people who somewhat care about the things we say. So it really feels like, okay, we can get our messages out. And we can do it from like our bedrooms. Whereas the NMP, I don't know. I think so. I don't think it's the system itself. I think it's just whether people are suited to the role. Like, what about you? If you had to answer that question,
I think I can't. Yeah, because I think it requires you to play within the rules a lot and stay within the sandbox. And I mean, first and foremost, it requires you to be approved by this a group of people who, you might have very differing views about life in general with this bunch of people.
yeah,
And, based on their personal interests and biases or that, they might not want you as an NMP as well, right? Depending on who's in the committee and all that. So just that whole process of getting approved by a very small select group of individuals who are already in parliament and have their own agendas, and they have their agenda. Everyone in parliament has an agenda, right? So this small group of people who has their own agenda, and then you have to go in and you must play by the rules. You can't not say you want to go in there and burn the place down or break any rules or whatnot, right? But it's I think politics requires a lot of finessing, between human relationships and using words and soft power and stuff like that, which, it's not, I don't think it's really my personality to do that kind of thing. Yeah.
But Terrence, imagine how proud your parents will be,
Of course,
Instead of like speaking into a
Yeah.
mic with no audience in front of you, you'll be in parliament, no, bro.
Yeah.
Imagine like the newspaper article, seeing your mom, like my mom also see, like, wow, finally. Yeah.
But I mean, the other flip side of it, right, which I don't think it's mentioned in the article, but I think it's worth mentioning, is that NMPs, despite the fact that you practically, I mean, by right, your role is supposed to just basically like being part of parliament, right? NMPs, the allowance of NMP is much, much lower than an elected MP.
Yeah.
It's 15% of what an elected member of parliament gets as an allowance. So I think annually it comes up to $28,900, which is about annually. So if I do my calculations correctly, it's $2,400 a month, right? So $2,400 a month.
Fuck, really?
To do what MPs, elected MPs who get whatever, $15,000. I can't remember the exact figure. $15,000 a month to do, but a lot of them still say it's not enough. I need to find another job outside. So to be given only 15% of what they do, and then all that comes with being a member of parliament, right? Where you have to, have appearance. You have to make time every month to attend parliament. You have to be a public figure. You have to answer to media inquiries. You have to answer to constituents within your community. Let's say if you represent a media arts community and all that. That's a lot to ask for someone to do outside of their day job, for $2,400 a month, right?
Fuck, man.
I'm not saying that it should be motivated by money, because then I think that's a perversion of what the whole thing is supposed to be like, right? But the truth is, you sacrifice. There is sacrifices involved, involved in becoming a public figure, involved in having to, give speeches, craft policies. Of course, there's upsides as well. There are intangible upsides, like your profile and who knows what else comes with being a public figure, right? But I do feel that one thing that the cost of it seems disproportionately higher than the immediate benefit that can come to you as a person.
Yeah, for some reason I thought it was a lot higher, but I got mixed up with how much MPs make.
Yeah. I mean, MPs make a pretty healthy allowance, right, for doing what they do.
Yeah.
And as mentioned, in recent times, we've spoken about Tin Pei Ling getting a job at Grab. A lot of the criticism comes from, all the amount of the allowance also not enough for you. You still need to find a job outside. But that's actually a lot of MPs they don't do this full time as a job. So yeah, you can imagine for NMPs it's even a tougher call. Yeah.
Yeah. So man, I thought that was a lot higher.
Yeah. So does that change things for you as well in terms of thinking about why people are not taking up the NMP position?
Yes. Because it puts a lot of context into why one criticism that you see on the internet is like, oh, like, what have NMPs done and all? Because ultimately, like, it's, if you really have an opinion about something, yeah, you debate there. But do you want to rock the boat there? We all know that in parliament, if you fuck up and say something wrong, there could be repercussions, be it your public image. Now parliament is especially so public. I think maybe that's another thing that wasn't mentioned. It's people care so much more about parliament right now. There's so much on social media that goes around. If you fuck up in parliament, even if you make a slip up or you blabber, you become a meme. So it's almost like if the compensation doesn't account for that. Previously, when no one gave a shit in parliament, when it wasn't available online, you say your stuff and it's all done in private,
Yeah.
But now it's like, wow, you become a public figure with. So then, like, how much can you expect someone to want to risk also for providing an alternative opinion,
Yeah, I think that's one thing that has changed since the last election or whatever, right? The last nominated MP cycle is I think the live streaming of Parliament. It's a very big deal. The live streaming and what's the term? Social media realization of Parliament in general. Like what you said, memes, TikToks, and all these little snippets. You fuck up a sentence, you dig your nose, you fall asleep in Parliament. All that comes back to haunt you via social media. So is it worth it, right? You really have to ask yourself, because you think about the criteria as well. They look for people who have distinguished themselves. They want NMPs who have distinguished themselves in their fields of work, right? Whether in public or private service and all that. So if you've already done that, you've probably attained some level of recognition in society or in your industry. Then do you want to further subject yourself to more scrutiny after that? For a role that doesn't really have as much bite as an elected MP role, right? And not just the bite, but also the carrot, right? The carrot is smaller also. It's a much smaller carrot, 15%.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, it's just a losing proposition. So I can totally understand why the applications are so few. Not so few, but have dipped so much since the last time, really.
But don't you think there is a sliver of the population that genuinely wants to work on policy, and it's really not about the money? And I say that because, Singapore minister salaries are disproportionately higher than equivalent salaries in other countries, right? Where politics, I mean, you don't get rich by becoming a politician just from your salary, whatever. There's a lot that comes with it. And yet there are
in other countries,
in other countries.
In other
countries. So there are still people who come forward, and maybe there's that clout that comes with it. So I do see the motivation, I think it's still there amongst people. But then the desire to effect change and the desire to make Singapore better. But okay, if I had to say one big reason, my hypothesis is because it does feel like there are more voices in Parliament right now discussing a wider range of perspectives and opinions. So it almost feels like, okay, maybe the NMP thing, it's not going to be as influential or as hypothetically influential as it could be. But if you had to put one reason why you think there's a dip.
One reason that I think there's a dip.
One reason.
I think just the trade-offs are not worth it anymore. Like what I was mentioning earlier about, just becoming a public figure and exposing yourself to criticism and a lot more that comes with being a member of Parliament. I think maybe relooking the 15% cap on the compensation is not the solution, but it's probably a start, right? To better reflect that you do value an NMP's contributions, right? Because I mean, ultimately, we're in Singapore. Singapore is a place where money talks, and the fact that NMPs are, they're given a much, not about the money amount, but they're just told that your contribution is only 15% of what an elected MP is. It's a bit of a slap in the face, if you're sitting in Parliament maybe even spending more time in Parliament than some elected MPs and all that, right? Of course, the argument is that you don't have constituents to take care of like an elected MP. But I think it's still, it's still a good amount of work to attend Parliament, to read material, to speak to people and all that as well. So maybe it starts with better recognizing their efforts by, maybe not 15%, but even closer to 40-50% or something like that, right?
You think that would change suddenly fucking 4,000 applicants?
Maybe who knows? Yeah, it becomes it's a job that you can apply. No, but I think the people who are nominated for it or get nominated for it, firstly, there's a very strict vetting process in place already. So I think they can weed out the people who are there purely for the money. Secondly, I think a lot of people who are nominated should be pretty. I won't say comfortable, but they're not struggling, and they're not looking for a job specifically, right?
Yeah. They're in a position where they even within their own industries, probably they have some influence, because I think before the submissions from the public, there's 7 functional groups designated by the Constitution: business and industry, the professions, the labor movement, social service organizations, the civics and people sector, tertiary education institution, and media arts. and sports organizations all submit names lah. Of course, you can nominate yourself. But I mean, no, but if you think about it, right, you become NMP, you got a lot of other perks, right? You can be like, you're with your friends, you're like, hey, fuck guys, I gotta go meet Shan lah. Just have to discuss some stuff, and after that I'm meeting CJ. Then they'll be like, who? Chuan Jin bro. Yeah, that's what I gotta rush off. How baller, you can imagine people feel. Then like, oh yeah, meeting CJ first, then Pritam after that. I just wanna get a range of opinions.
But
it's a power play. It's a flexer, bro.
But if that's the barometer for feeling important, then you might as well just start a podcast. Then you have a podcast and you get guests on and you get to speak to MPs, you get to speak to people as well, right?
But then the podcast, you still have to like create a lot of podcasts before they want to come on your podcast.
Correct. Yeah, you have to build up a track record. But I would think it's more fulfilling also because you're not subjecting yourself to this approvals process to be like almost like an approved vendor, of the Singapore Parliament system,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
I mean,
I think it takes a certain kind of that's why I think I wouldn't be able to do well in that because it takes a certain kind of temperament. It takes a certain kind of playing, staying within the sandbox in order to fulfill to do a role like this, which I don't think I can do. Yeah.
But think about it, instead of just shitting on my ideas, right? You can shit on more people's ideas now.
How much time do you have to shit in Parliament? It's so limited, and all the time you prepare a speech and give your speech, and someone makes a comment, and okay, they're moving on to the next topic already, or what, So how much time is there to do that,
No, but like amidst all the kind of commentary right now online about whether or not the NMP program still has a place. I know some people are saying the time that they will slap PAP back in the face will be when maybe there's less of a difference between the PAP seats and the opposition seats, and NMPs actually will make the difference in votes. No, can you imagine? Like a policy that's like 45% and 45%, or like 47% and 43%, and the last 10% is NMPs,
Yeah,
because it's 9 seats, right? And I mean, in terms of the most articulate rebuttals and all, actually when Goh Chok Tong pitched it in 1989, there was one PAP MP who spoke against it, and it is Tan Cheng Bock. So before Tan Cheng got blocked, he tried to Tan Cheng block Goh Chok Tong, and I just found the written excerpt of the exchange between him and Goh Chok Tong, and I mean he put up a lot of points and he said that he believes that the parliamentary house should be only issues that should be debated by people who understand it best, and there can always be a select committee outside of parliament that the parliament can tap on for opinions and all. And apparently there was also a report that was done by the chief justice back then that examined whether a council of nominated people called a council of state, which later became the presidential council, should be part of parliament, and they concluded that it shouldn't be for reasons similar to what Tan Cheng Bock said. So it's quite a detailed thing, and I mean he is fucking eloquent, so that's his speech. And he was saying that the NMP scheme could lead to more polarization, and it's almost like what we mentioned earlier. It's an out for the incumbent to say, don't worry about opposition, they don't have that many seats, but here we provide a platform for alternative opinions through the NMP scheme. But like what you said, it's defang.
Yeah. So it's like having a mini speaker's corner in parliament itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where to speak at the corner, you have to get approval from the police and a license from the police to go and speak in the corner. And then you also cannot say a lot of things when you're speaking in the corner. So
then maybe after parliament they all go for coffee, but it's only the MPs. The NMPs are like, hey, sorry, not enough space, bro. That hawker center, not enough space.
There's another table. You all sit at the other table over there. The kids' table, the kids' utensils on the side.
Like very low table, very low seats. The cups very small.
Yeah.
Can you just get a kiddie meal?
Yeah, I mean your contributions are only 15% of what we contribute. So yeah.
So your kopi also 15%.
Subsidized version, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's still going to carry on. For the next 2.5 years, there'll be another term of NMPs. I think it'll be announced later this year. Um, so we'll see how it goes, lah. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. No, I don't want to see it go away or anything. I think
Yeah.
the people inside have raised important points over the years, but I think the system right now is just set up to like just even the compensation itself is disincentivizing, if anything, lah, for people to want to be NMPs, lah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know whether NMPs, like, you can't become like an NMP influencer or something like that. Where you vlog your day, like, hey guys, I'm walking to the parliament now. I got my matcha latte here, and it's really nice weather. And then you go, because you can't bring in your cameras to parliament, but then after that you do a parliamentary recap. You could be big on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Yeah, interesting. I mean, for all those people who do end up becoming NMPs, like, there's still the room to voice out. And I wish you all the best.
Yeah, that's right. I think, remember there was one time even Xia Xue said that she was trying to, she was exploring it or something like that.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
speaking to some people. Who were exploring, and they were asking her to, try to be NMP and all. So,
she wants to enter, correct.
Yeah,
she entered in 2018.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's right. Yeah. Pretty crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Who next? Like, which influencer do you think has the clout to do this?
I mean, okay, so in the realm of influencers, recently there was actually a Japanese YouTuber MP who was expelled.
That's right,
because he never went to parliament.
Yeah. I
He
read
was
about
expelled.
that.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I think the only MP ever in Japan to be expelled. For over 7 months, he never attended a single day of parliament. It's only happened 2 times since 1950, and that was the first time an MP was expelled. So, fuck, man.
Damn.
Yeah, interesting.
Crazy. I wonder who else. I don't know who's the next influencer to try. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it will be, man. And the rate things are unfolding, maybe Dikosh.
Possibly. I didn't want to bring up the name, but you did. Yeah.
Possibly.
Who knows? But yes, speaking of being defanged, right? Like, I think our next topic is about it's kind of a little bit of a dispute between an events promoter and an events company that has gone into the realm of like human rights. The little dispute, commercial dispute, has touched on the realm of human rights. And what is this dispute that we're talking about?
It is the recent cancellation of an LGBTQ party that was supposed to be held at Capitol Theatre in May, May. And it was cancelled, I think, last week. So basically, the party event called Slay Harajuku was cancelled last week, and they put something, and the organizers put something out on Instagram, being very apologetic, saying regretfully, they have had to cancel this. And last week, I remember, the reason being floated around was because there were complaints from the neighbors, I think it was, let's see, had alleged that Perennial Holdings, the owner of Capital, had expressed concerns about the event to IMC Group Asia, referring to its discomfort with Slay being a gay event. And apparently, Capital Theatre, they had to take, and I quote, take into consideration the views of our immediate and surrounding stakeholders, including the religious community in close vicinities such as the church and the mosque. So the word on the street or online was that it's because it's a gay event, But then today it came out saying that because it's a electronic dance music event.
Right.
Not because it's a gay event. So I mean, it feels like it's a he said, she said thing, but what made you want to talk about this?
Like what you said, it's a he say, she say thing. I think the initial statement from the event organizer, made it seem like it was really a case of discrimination, right, against the LGBTQ community, because they were cancelling. Or they said that the event was cancelled because they were uncomfortable with a gay event, lah. But it seems like, the venue or the manager of the venue has come out to say that it's not about not about it being LGBTQ event, but it's because it's an electronic dance music event, lah, which is a broader thing, lah, right? Having any kind of like EDM party, that there's gonna be it's going to leave the place a little bit messy, lah, to say the least, right?
Yeah.
Alcohol and drinks and everything. So yeah, it's kind of like, okay, I get the justification for why they maybe wanted to cancel it. So yeah, it's become a bit of a he say she say thing. So it's hard to say who's right, who's wrong, lah. But what about you? Like, why are you so interested in this topic?
I mean, because it feels like what exactly happened? It's gonna be hard to know, because if it really was because of the nature of the event, in terms of the themes of the event, like a gay event, then that's fucked up, lah, right? And if it's an EDM thing, also can understand, but I don't know. I don't know, because I know Capitol Theatre, it is kind of like a heritage building. It has that look. But I don't know, like, I can see, I mean, so many different types of events have been held in so many different types of places in Singapore, around the world. I don't think any event organizer would just leave the place in a shithole after organizing it, lah. So then it becomes like, is that just a cover up for the actual reason? Or is it just a fucking stupid comms? Like, let's say it really was because of the EDM issue, which you can imagine religious buildings having some issue, lah, But when you put out a statement saying, oh, we have to take into a consideration our activities of our neighbors, it immediately feels like it's anti-gay. But
That's true.
But then is it a fault of our prejudices and subjectiveness and jumping to conclusions? Who the fuck knows, man?
Yeah. It's just, I guess it's just one of those things that it's very hard to tell, right? Because I think it's very much unless there's documentation from the event organizer themselves, that they were told that they were the Capitol Theatre owners were uncomfortable with a gay event.
Yeah.
Unless there's documentation, it really is a case of he says, she says, and people shouldn't. I think it's hard to jump to any kind of conclusion about this, so people should hold off as much as possible, right?
Yeah, but then the thing is, it's happening in May, and anyone who's ever organized an event, no matter how small, even a meetup or with friends, right? It's ridiculous to have it cancelled like only a month before, lah. And I know Slay's rebuttal to the apparent reason of it being an EDM event is like, why is this coming now? We have not changed the nature of the event at all. In fact, they've actually held a previous event before at Rumours Bar in Sentosa. And if you go to the Instagram profile, you can get a very good feel of what the event entailed. It really is people dancing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for that reason to come out at last minute, it does feel a bit fishy, lah.
That's true.
Yeah, and then it becomes like, is it really because of the theme of the event? Then that's fucked up, lah. But we'll never know.
It's hard to say, lah. Very hard to say. So yeah, I mean, before I guess we're basically just saying it's a lot of what we're saying is also speculation, right?
Yeah.
And just reading from the announcements from each party, it kind of paints different pictures of what's happening. So yeah, might be something that not to get too riled up by at first glance. Yeah, you need to think carefully about what is exactly going on, because ultimately it could just be largely a business dispute also, right?
Between, you mean like the neighbors and the neighboring tenants and all?
No. I'm talking about between the event organizer and the and the venue and all that, right? And it's hard to say because we don't know commercial terms and all these things. So it's a tough one to break down.
But I mean, the landlord did say that it's because they held an EDM event over New Year's, which
Mm.
was which left the theater in in a like very bad condition lah. So that's why they don't want. But it still feels like 4 months later, then only you have an issue,
Yeah.
right?
But I
It's
mean,
just
I don't know. Maybe it just takes, maybe it just takes a long time for them to go through an after action review of what happened over New Year's Eve and how much they spent and all things like that, right?
I guess. But I mean, like I don't know. It just feels like because I mean a big church is right opposite the capital, lah, right?
Mm.
So I'm not so sure where the mosque is.
Mm.
Do you know?
Mm. I think maybe on the other side.
Near
On the other
Armenian
side,
Street there or something. Yeah.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. But I mean, the event would have been indoors, lah, right? Regardless,
Yeah, I
it would have been
guess.
indoors. Yeah.
I don't know what they were thinking. Like outside, what will be happening?
Mm.
Don't know. It's just weird. And the thing is now international media has really caught on, and of course the theme is that it's an anti LGBTQ agenda, lah.
I see.
Ay.
Yeah.
Chala. And I mean, apparently they paid the full amount for the venue last month. Um, yeah. And I mean, they like the organizers themselves say that IMC Asia, who operates the capital, called them to say that no, IMC Asia called them to tell them that the perennial holdings who owns capital, they were uncomfortable with Slay being a gay event, lah. But we'll never know the truth.
We'll never know. Yeah, but I mean the New Year's Eve party, is a very interestingly named "Don't Let Daddy Know." That's the name of the New Year's Eve party in 2022. Yeah, so
Is it?
sounds very naughty already lah. Sounds very naughty. Yeah.
Don't let Daddy know.
Yeah, that's the name of the EDM festival. Don't Let Daddy Know, and I think it's, if I'm not wrong, it's from overseas, and then they brought a version to Singapore lah. Don't Let Daddy Know Singapore.
Don't
took
let
place at
Daddy know.
took place at 31st December 2022 at Singapore Expo Hall 3. And some of the acts were
No, it
included.
took place at Capitol Theatre lah.
No. Oh, Capitol Theatre. Is it?
Yeah lah.
No, I'm talking about
Which is where-
the event organizer. The event organizer. The party that the event organizer, the last event that they organized in Singapore lah. Yeah.
Which was where? Don't Let Daddy Know happened at Capitol Theatre, 31st
happened at
December
Capitol
2022. Yeah, that is the EDM festival that that apparently left.
Festival.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's also it's because I think the initial announcements were that it was supposed to happen at Expo. But I guess
then
it
change lah. Then
to,
change.
Yeah, it changed to
Don't
Capitol
let Daddy
Theatre.
know.
Yeah. So already okay,
Walao
already
eh.
got very naughty things going on. Naughty festivals going on at the Capitol Theatre before that already lah. Yeah.
Don't let Daddy know.
Yeah.
Walao eh. That is
Sounds
interesting. But that was too much lah. That was too much. They have to let Daddy know. They have to
Yeah
let
lah.
Daddy know.
And now
Cannot do
Daddy
this thing
said no.
anymore. Yeah,
Daddy said no.
See, you don't let Daddy know, right? Then
Yeah.
Daddy find out, Daddy say no.
Daddy says no. Yeah.
Get out. Daddy said no, man. A big
Yeah.
no.
Daddy said no.
Walao eh. But now, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, the event still happens somewhere else. I mean, maybe there are events out there. They're like, yo, man. If we can come in
Happy
and
to
rescue
host,
the
yeah.
event, that'll be cool, man.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Hopefully.
Free PR.
Yeah. But cool.
Cool,
So
man.
That's another dispute that's out there. But speaking of more happier things, what's your one Shiok comment?
My one Shiok comment. Wait, you wanna go first?
Let me just pull it. My internet is kind of wonky, but let me pull it up on my phone. I think
Okay, so
it was just someone talking
okay.
about the recent podcast with that we did with Joe Tan that we released last week. I think it was a pretty interesting podcast for us. I quite enjoyed being part of it and really talking to Joe Tan. I think that was the first time we really talked to Joe Tan, for a long period, even though we've worked with her quite a bit and all that, right? So I think some people concur, and some people, I mean, Jungle Jimbo came forward and said he really enjoyed this episode. Really hopes that he can have a part two, perhaps with Joe Tan again. Even the original Good One then responded, I second that. I must confess I never heard of Joe Tan before, but this was a really good episode. And Joe connects with us really well. She's self-aware enough to make really incisive points, even as she hams it up with her DJ voice, right? And so very clearly, I think Joe Tan resonated with a lot of people who listen to this podcast. So yeah, hopefully we'll get Joe Tan on again at some point. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. There was one comment on the most recent podcast we did about the Charles and Keith girl coming clean about her financial her family's financial background and all. And original Goat One commented saying that they didn't want to dig too deeply, but just wanted to share a podcast that they had listened to regarding the discussion on whether poor people should buy luxury items. And apparently there's a lot of literature on this, and the general answer is that why not? Why not? And I think they said that the one popular soundbite. So the article kind of talks about how there was a program first in the US called an earned income tax credit. It took about 60 billion from wealthy Americans and gave it to the working poor. And apparently it's been done by every president from Ronald Reagan all the way to Obama. And I mean there is a lot of happening, and it's not the most controversial. It's like no strings attached. And the examples that this article quotes was like, when people get the money, like people who couldn't afford to bring their kids to Disneyland ended up bringing their kids to Disneyland. So it's almost like you can imagine if people saying, we give you this money, you go fucking Disneyland for what? Why cannot buy more bread or food? But you can't take away the benefits that those sort of like softer things give. So I thought that's interesting. It's like it's not really a podcast, it's just a short article. So interesting perspective. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cool. And then your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing is I think it's a YouTuber. I believe she's a Chinese citizen living in Singapore, but she's on YouTube, and she YouTubes in Mandarin. I think her name is Nini Jiang. So we'll put a link up there later. But she's been going into this. It's quite interesting because she started off just as just doing content creation as for fun, and eventually she actually left her job to do YouTube full time. Now she's built up quite a following, almost 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. But and I've also seen her content evolve from just like very basic stuff about vlogs about living in Singapore, and now she does she's very big into cycling. So anyone who says I hate cyclists, that's not true, right? So she actually vlogs a lot about doing cycling trips across Singapore, in Malaysia. But one series of videos that she did recently that I thought were really interesting was she actually went on a biking trip to Jeju in South Korea.
Oh wow!
And so she actually it seems like she went solo, and she's been vlogging and just traveling for almost 2 weeks right. And she brought her own Brompton bicycle there, and she's been cycling there. So she's been doing it on a budget as well, right? Trying to stay in hostels and things like that. So it's quite interesting because she talks about the cost of things in Korea relative to Singapore. But she's speaking as someone who's not from Singapore, but she lives in Singapore enough to know how expensive it is to live here, and then she compares the cost of things in Korea as well. So just interesting perspective about the cost of living in Singapore and the kinds of things that people who are not from Singapore think about life in Singapore. So do check out her YouTube channel.
Well, and how do you chance upon her?
I think just year or two ago, I do notice sometimes these up and coming content creators based in Singapore, and I was like, okay, quite interesting perspective of a Chinese student or young Chinese person living in Singapore. And I've just been following, and I've just been seeing her content evolve over time as well. So it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, for me it is the news that I think
Manchester
just came
United
out.
is in the FA Cup final, is it?
No lah, no. I don't know, man. Man City now is scary, man. I'm worried for Man U.
Yeah. And Arsenal also.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and Arsenal.
Yeah.
But there was a news that there was this Spanish athlete who's like in I think her 50s or something. She
Okay.
spent as part of an experiment on how extreme isolation affects people. She spent 500 days alone in a cave.
Oh wow.
Totally disconnected. So no internet, no nothing, and it was part of a research effort to help scientists understand the effects of extreme isolation. So she came out on April 12th. Sorry, not April 12th. And she actually thought that it was a lot less than 500 days. It was like 160 or 170 days.
Since she was counting, she was counting wrongly.
No, so basically what the hypothesis or what the researchers say that they've noticed this amongst anyone who spends a lot of time in extreme isolation. You lose track of time. It happens to prisoners, especially when you can't see the sun.
Yeah.
So for her, she wasn't really counting, but ultimately she just followed her circadian rhythm, I guess, when she's hungry, when she feels sleepy. And over time, that took charge, because she couldn't tell when was day, when was night, right?
So she didn't see the sun also.
Yeah, she didn't see the sun.
Oh wow.
It was just 500 days of that. And I don't know whether she went in without a watch or anything, but she just kept busy by exercising, by reading, by I think she had food. I haven't looked at the full detailed research and all, but it was, that research was quite interesting. And the main takeaway is like how fluid time is to them. Yeah, because she said she has no idea what happened in the world for 500 days.
Wow.
So when she comes out, she's still in like November 2021.
Wow.
Which sounds so ridiculous, right? Can you imagine, like, after a week of not reading news, it's like, hey, shit, this happened or that happened? This is 500 days now.
So she's an extreme athlete.
Yeah, she's a mountaineer. She's a rock climber, mountaineer. So interesting, interesting. And
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't say I would I would love to be a part of it, but to me that kind of stuff is fucking interesting, man.
Yeah,
and
I'd love to find out how she how she got funding to do it and all that,
Yeah,
or it's just part of a book or something. Yeah,
they probably asked for a volunteer. Most people say fuck no, and she's like, fuck yeah, because part of a book, part of a research effort, and it's just so unique an experience. And it could be very useful research, right? Like, you think about all the missions being planned to Mars and shit like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
silence for a year and a half. That's insane.
Yeah, a year and a half. Wow. So interesting. Cool, man.
Wow, that was a very muted start to the week, but
yeah, that's no Monday. Heated arguments that made the podcast excruciating to listen to.
Yeah, nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Later in the week. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks for listening, everybody.